Netroots Nation. Thom Hartmann here with you on Free Speech TV. We're talking with Anisha Singh. She's the director of Judicial Nominations at the Planned Parenthood Action Fund, civil rights attorney, previously the senior organizer over at Generation Progress. And Anisha, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Great having you here with us. So, what is the, broadly speaking, I mean, you're looking at the legal side of all this stuff and the nuts and bolts of it, which is, frankly, for me, really fascinating stuff. What is the legal landscape with regard to reproductive health right now in the United States?
Right. So what we know is that Senate Republicans, this administration, is really adamant to make sure that we are packing the courts and setting things up so that Roe can be overturned. In fact, right now, Roe is being undermined every single day. We're seeing these state bans across the country, from Missouri, where there's one Planned Parenthood health center left before Missouri goes dark. There's Alabama, Georgia, abortion bans across the board. We have this administration implementing their gag rule, which the Ninth Circuit just confirmed this week. And we have at the same time Mitch McConnell and others really packing the courts with extremist judicial nominations who are anti-reproductive health care, who would like to see Roe overturned, who have made that clear. And let's not forget, during the campaign trail, Trump himself said that his litmus test for judges is going to be that they will undermine and overturn Roe. Right. And he has been fulfilling that promise. This president has filled the courts with more judges than any modern president in modern
Trump
history.
in 2.5 years has put more judges on the court than any president. I thought it was in the entire history of the United States. Numerically anyway, probably as a percentage, maybe George Washington beat him, but.
Yeah, and these are people that are 20% more conservative than even George Bush's judges. And we know those were really conservative judges. Right. And they're being really strategic. They're making sure that these are young folks who are 40, 45 years old, so they will sit on the courts for 40 years, 50 years, because these are lifetime appointments. And that's what makes it so scary. We know we can get rid of, the policies and maybe Trump that they have implemented in the next 2 years, 6 years, but judges, those are lifetime appointments, and so it's going to last a very long time. So they know that their agenda is not popular with the base, that they know that right now over 70% of Americans agree that abortion access needs to be available, that Roe should not be overturned. Right. And so they know that their agenda is not going to work through legislation, that their executive orders are going to be challenged in the courts. And so they're making sure that through the judiciary, they're rigging the courts, they're packing the courts.
So there's a one of many, actually, but one of the more well-known quotes is from a right-wing billionaire who funds a lot of causes and sues a lot of people. So I'm not going to mention his name, but I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, who said that, our problems all began in 1920 when women got the right to vote. I've interviewed a number of conservatives on my program over the last couple of years who have come right out and said, yeah, abortion's a big deal, but really, women need to be back in their place. I mean, it's unbelievable, but are you getting any signals that any of these people have an agenda that is larger than just abortion? Because it seems like in many ways this is not just about abortion, it's about men controlling women.
Absolutely. This is all about, abortion access is all about giving a woman a right to control her own body. Right. And when you take that away, you're taking away her empowerment when it comes to her economic decisions, when it comes to her family planning, when it comes to her life choices, and taking away a lot of opportunities that men are granted by not having to worry about these things. So that is absolutely a way to control women and to control our narrative and our bodies. And especially when it comes to what the president's doing with the gag rule and these abortion bans that state legislators are doing across the country. And I think what's so interesting is the energy and the anger across the country around these abortion bans is palatable, and you can see it and you can feel it. But we need to make sure that people are paying just as much attention to what they're doing in the courts. Because let's take Alabama and Georgia as an example. Those are two states people have gotten really angry and been paying a lot of attention to what's been happening there with the abortion bans. When you now look at where those two states sit, they sit in the 11th Circuit of our courts. These abortion bans are going to be challenged in the courts. That's usually what happens here. And they're going to be challenged in the 11th Circuit at some point. First District Court, then it goes up to Circuit Court, and then if needed, it goes up to the Supreme Court. And this 11th Circuit, Trump has already appointed 3 judges, 3 extremist judges who have made it clear that they do not care about a woman's right to abortion access. And so we have that at risk where these things are going to be challenged, and they've set it up so they're safe and they can lock it in. And we have 15 cases right now that are one step away from going to the Supreme Court, 15 abortion cases.
Wow. But you also have Betsy DeVos, making it much harder for women who've been sexually attacked or raped in colleges and schools to do anything about it. You have, rolling back or the continuing Republican opposition to even the Equal Rights Amendment, which still is not part of our law, that basically you can't discriminate based on gender. This, like I said earlier, it seems to me like this is a main battle in a larger war. Is there, the abortion part of it is being messaged, I think, very well. But what about this larger war for women's rights generally? Maybe war is a terrible metaphor, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
I think we saw a little bit of it during the Cavanaugh fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I have been working on courts for a very long time, and I've never seen the progressive side kind of galvanize around a Supreme Court nomination fight or any court nomination fight the way we did for Kavanaugh. We saw women busing into D.C., sitting and getting arrested within the Senate building, staying for days on end, extending their trips just to make sure that they could fight this. Even at the very last second when we knew we were going to lose that fight, women bust in and came in and protested and marched and bird dogged and put everything on the line. So we know the energy is there, and I think the Cavanaugh fight really brought all of that together and kind of brought to light just how backwards we've become. Been that we had dealt with the same exact issue with Anita Hill 40, 50 years ago, and now we're dealing with it all over again. And nothing has changed. There's no justice, and they were refusing to even give Dr. Blasey Ford a hearing. They didn't even want to give her that time. They didn't even want to give us time to review thousands of documents. They gave us less than 24 hours to do so.
Well, I think all we saw was less than 3% of all the documents associated with Brett Kavanaugh.
Absolutely.
So we have no idea who he really was or what he did.
Absolutely. And there's so much more coming out now, but now he's on the court and it's a lifetime appointment, and it's very hard to get someone off the court. And this is all part of that same method that you're talking about. It's this overall attack on women.
It's like a war on the rights of women.
Absolutely.
Basically.
It's a war on the rights of women, on the rights of immigrants. We know there are going to be raids across the country tomorrow. There are so many things and so many attacks to so many marginalized populations throughout this country, and I think when you really hone in on what they're doing to pack the courts, you can kind of see it all coming to fruition. Right? You can see how all of these issues are going to end up there.
And this is not an accident. The Federalist Society came out of, arguably, the Powell Memo. Certainly it came out of all the funding groups that popped up in the 70s and 80s, out of the Powell Memo specifically. And, where Lewis Powell said to his neighbor and friend Eugene Sindor, the guy who ran the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, we've got to take over the courts, we've got to take over the colleges, we've got to take over the public narrative, we've got to take over the media, and it's like tick, 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 tick. They're just going right down the list, and they're doing all this stuff.
Absolutely, and the one thing that they don't have is the people power. Their agenda items are actually not popular. When you just see all the polling across the board, their agenda items are not popular across the board with Americans, but it's because they've gained all this power and they've been setting things up for 40, 50 years in the courts, and we're so far behind. They've been building this out for so long. Like you said, the Federalist Society, Judicial Crisis Network, they have a pipeline. The second a conservative enters law school, they're being trained to be a judge, and as young as possible, then they're being nominated, and they have this pipeline ready to go. We are still playing catch up on this, and that's hurting us now.
If the entire messaging is around the abortion movement, the Republicans know that that's problematic in that you've got even women who are Catholics by and large, typically it's religion that informs them, or fundamentalist Christians who are, opposed to abortion. How do you, as Planned Parenthood, how do we as allies and, message this? We have a little less than a minute, but how do we message this in a larger frame than just a woman's right to choose an abortion?
What we need to do is quash the fake narrative that has been put forward by the Republican Party and Donald Trump, saying things like late-term abortions. All of these are incorrect terms to be used. They are falsehoods. They're just fear-mongering. And they're trying to drive a narrative that really does not display what women every day are going through. So just lifting up those stories of real women going through going through it, having to make their choices, women who are struggling to make ends meet who made the choice, the importance of a woman's right to choose, the importance of abortion access being a human right and a civil right. And so making sure that we're really correcting the narrative as much as we can. And then also calling our senators, because right now the courts are still, every single day, they're still putting through anti-reproductive health care judges every single day. And they're packing the courts to a point where even if we do win back in 2021, we're not going to have vacancies to fill. And that's going to be very troublesome.
Anisha Singh, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.